Okay, this screencast is a presentation of my Bogosort sorting algorithm. But well, what it basically does is it takes a set of numbers from input and it uses the Bogosort algorithm to try and sort them. And what it basically is that you put in a series of values and it shuffles them randomly until it sees that they're in order. So let's start the program here in order to show you. It asks you how many things you would like to sort. Let's go 4. And let's just do 4 numbers. 0.21.
You can actually enter letters too, though, right?
Yes, you can enter anything. It will sort it alphanumeric in order of ASCII value.
Uh-huh. So enter the number 32 now, and then enter the letter A.
Okay. All right. And now, after 5 attempts, which is actually pretty low for that amount of numbers, after 5 random shuffles, it gives you A, -9, 0.21, and 32, which is A, which is alphanumeric. So A, and then they have the numbers in order from least to greatest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
So the code consists of how many methods again? 3, I believe. The first is the main method that controls the structure. We have a Boolean y. I use that to check if this is for the sake of input, because if you put in something, for instance, that is not an integer in that first one, such as fur, it would tell you to enter a positive integer value, and then it would repeat it until you put something valid in.
Try 0.5.
Like a 2. No, yeah, 0.5 wouldn't work either.
Okay.
So then, so this do while loop checks if y is true or false. Once if it must evaluate to false in order to break out of the loop. And false means that you've entered a correct value. True means you've entered an incorrect value.
Right.
And you only need it can be a Boolean for that. And we have a catch and an exception if it does, so that the program keeps running.
Mm-hmm.
It's useful for a lot of input to try and do that. Now I have a string array here, and that will act as our list. And we input values into the list using this for loop that it creates an input value, which is a scanner. That's a scanner object, and then it puts that scanner object into the list of strings, and that acts as an effective user input. It's useful like that to put input into arrays.
What is the advantage of inputting into an array as opposed to just a separate list?
Or an array list.
Well, putting it into an array is very light, because being a string array, it can be all of the elements can individually be manipulated easily.
So
and the thing is that you don't want to assign an individual variable for each of the things, and this allows you to input any amount, because the for loop runs until it reaches TOT, which is a variable you've already inputted. So you could input as many things as possible. It's not limited this way.
But why did you use arrays versus array lists?
Well, because we're only inputting strings. But if it were any greater values, like if you had to input multiple pieces of information, then yes, you would use an array list, because it would be able to carry more stuff.
Yeah, for example, if instead of entering a number or a letter, if you were entering a Gulliver student object, or if you were to enter a bicycle object, then you're better off using an array list.
Yes, and this if else is just It checks if you put it in the order already. Then you have this while loop, which is the main control of the program. It is sorted list is this method, which is sorted. This checks if they are sorted in the correct order with a really complicated code using a float. I don't even know where to start because it basically checks if it can be parsed to a float, and if it can, it checks if those, by going through repeatedly up to the top length of the list, it goes through the floats and checks if they are in order. And if it doesn't evaluate to a float, then it orders them by ASCII value and that is important because you have to convert the string to a character or a character list.
Yeah.
And you have to find the integer value, and you typecast char into int, and you get the ASCII value.
Right.
So you can sort things by ASCII value doing that process. And it returns true or false accordingly, true being that it is sorted correctly.
Right. So in the long run, Schuyler, are you comparing the numerical value, the ASCII numerical equivalent of everything, or just the ASCII value for non-numerics?
Just the ASCII value for non-numerics.
Okay.
For everything that is a number, it puts those last and in order from least to greatest.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay. I get it. Okay, that's something that you yourself decided to do.
Correct.
Okay.
And then it just has this simple shuffle mechanism. It uses math.random to randomize blah 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 blah, randomizes the elements in the list.
Now explain again to the class why math.random as opposed to creating an object of the math class and then doing the name of the object.
You want me to discuss static methods. Fine. Math.random is a static method, which means it is called upon without creating an object of the math class. You don't create a math object when trying to call a static method of math. You simply, in a static method, you simply incite the name of the class using dot notation and then the method and any arguments it takes, and it returns a value. It does not operate within an object.
Now, speaking of static, I noticed that the methods that you created
Are static.
Why is that?
That is because this class is the only class in the program.
Right.
That's very important because if I had a different class and that was the main class and this was a subclass, a different class, then I would not need these methods need not be static because I could create an object of this class, the object of the sort class, and use non-static methods. But in this case of using only one class, you must operate within public static void main, and when you're in a static thing like main, and you're referencing another method within the same class, the other method must be static.
Unless you have another class.
Correct, but we do not. We do not have another class, so every method that you call on within this main must be static. And any...
Outstanding. Very good.
That's
That's something that for the people that are new to Java, you always get those errors. You cannot reference
Static method. and
static method or static field or
From non-static.
from a non-static context. So that's the reason. If you ever get an error like that, change the methods to static, and the problem should go away. Okay.
But sometimes that causes like triple the problems you had before if you change it into static code.
Give me an example of when that would be true.
Before I had my program last year that I was doing with the one about the hotel, and I had a static variable for
Should I pause the screen pass?
Actually, no. Maybe you can answer his question, Schuyler. That's why I want to continue the screencast.
Okay.
It was for like a price of, it was a price of a room, I think. Yeah, that was the static because it wouldn't change. And then I tried to access that from a non-static method that would calculate the price for something. I forgot for what.
Right.
But then it wouldn't let me, and I changed it to static, and then like the whole program just like went crazy and like didn't know what to do. It wouldn't compile at all.
Well, actually, I've had the opposite problem. For me, it would not compile, and it would get stack overflow errors, and it would create objects continuously unto oblivion, in which until it ran out of memory.
I
And
had that same problem.
and then I changed this one method I did to static, and all of the problems went away.
I had the same problem with my graph search method when trying to actually create a graph. What I did was when I created a new node, I would add itself to the graph and change all the vertices to which it was connected to include the newly added vertex or node to be in their connections. And what would happen is it would add an infinitely many number of new objects into the said array list of nodes. And I never figured out what happened.
You see, but were all of your methods inside the same class? Because I was
Nope.
accessing the
No.
method from a different class.
I was accessing the method from a different class too. It seemed that it worked when it was static because of the action listeners. Like it was within, I think there was something, it was within an action listener, and when I had call upon that action listener, I needed that certain thing to be static in order for it to operate. Action interfaces work really strangely with static methods. That's where you have to get, that's where things get complicated. Because programs with interfaces that, where you have to reference the interface itself, and you have to create additional methods for that, you have to try and, because different interfaces work differently with your code, so
Right.
you have to check if static works or not. Because I found that when adding an action listener, it seemed to like static methods more.
Right. Okay. Anything else about your code, Schuyler, that you want to highlight?
Nope. Nothing is
Can
really
we run it for 7 objects now?
fine.
7 now. 10.
Yes. Put them in.
QA, Schuyler 14, Schuyler -14, -2, 0. Oh, that's it.
Ooh. Uh-oh.
Gotcha.
I'm not exactly sure what just happened. I don't think I've ever put in 0 for this before. I think
Index out of range.
I know why. Because
Out of range? Not index out of bounds?
not index out of range. Oh, I'm pretty sure it has to be because you put in 0. Let me try.
Try the same
Wait a minute.
data without 0.
0. No, didn't work anything. Okay.
Strange. What just happened?
I have no idea what just happened.
Maybe the minus between the Schuyler and the 14.
Alright, try Schuyler -14.
Try a negative with Schuyler. Yeah, right.
Negative Schuyler 14.
Yeah, there you go. It's that.
It's
the
the putting a
minus.
negative in there. I don't
It's
know
the
why.
minus. It doesn't know whether it's
I have a
treated as
feeling-
part of a number or as
I think so.
the ASCII. Yeah.
You know, what I'm noticing curious, can you explain the ++n that you're using in your car app?
Ah, yes, I could do that. Well, just give me one more moment.
How many tries did that take?
413.
Ah.
That's actually really, really good. The expected is 5,040.
Yeah, you,
Why can't
you
I
would
scroll
think
down?
it would take more tries for random shuffling, right?
Yep.
Because mathematically it should be 5,040.
Not really. No, Stephen's question is this really efficient? Compared to something like recursive merge sort, the answer is no.
Of course not. It's just shuffles things randomly.
It's called Bogosort.
How many times would that one take?
With recursive merge sort and seven objects, you could have it, the big O notation for that might be, what is the log of 7?
With respect to 10? Or
With respect to 10, maybe,
it's like
what,
maybe
0.5 or something?
no, not 0.5. It's probably 0.8.
Yeah, probably 0.8.
Yeah, it's
Now,
it's way more efficient.
I want to go to Faraz's
Way more
question.
efficient.
Faraz's question dealt with plus plus n rather than n plus plus.
And rather than n plus 1.
Or n plus 1, yes. This is very important, because something I know from reading the book we had last year, I don't remember what that was, but was that plus plus n, as opposed to n plus plus and n plus 1, is that it adds the number before it does the command.
Right,
Like, it'll do cur.char at, and then the next number after n.
right.
If I did n plus plus, it would do what n is currently at, and then increment.
Correct.
Wait, so if you did c equals cur.char at n plus plus, it would look at char at n and then increment n by 1.
After it's looked at n.
Right. As
For this
opposed to
one, it
plus
looked
plus
at the
n.
ones after n.
As opposed to plus plus n, where it'll increment n first and then go to char at.
That is correct.
And n plus 1 doesn't increment n, it only looks at char at of n plus 1 without changing the value of n.
Also correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. A lot of times in my C++ class, for example, I would have a student do C out plus plus n. And then they were expecting 7, but they would get 8. And then I would say, well, C out n plus plus. And then they would get 7, but the next time they did some mathematical computation with n, it's as if n had been 8 instead of 7. So it all depends really on the situation. Depends.
You know, I wonder. I mean, remember the index out of range error?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
When
one
you put a negative in? I bet negative isn't even counted as a character, is it?
It's what's happening. I
Well,
think is
what about
it's
white
not
space?
sure whether or not to treat it as a character or as
No, because it gave it on cur.chart and priv.chart, and those
Try
check.
s minus s. That shouldn't give you any error. If he's right, that shouldn't give you any errors. S minus s.
What if it's treating it as a hyphen?
right.
S
That's
plus s. Okay, that works. And 0.
It's going.
you see.
But it doesn't know where to evaluate things.
Ooh.
It doesn't know whether, like Taras is saying, it doesn't know whether to treat it as a hyphen or a minus.
Perhaps.
What if you got rid of s minus s and just kept s plus s, 12, and 0?
Well, guys, I think that's something later on for
Further discussion.
further discussion. The important thing is that Schuyler, very good job. He was able to incorporate. Go ahead, you can pause it now, Schuyler. He was
Kabam.
able